Alright, welcome. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. Today I will be going over the market or the weekly market analysis for January 27th to January 31st. Getting right into the charts here, I do want to start off with the dollar here. So for the weekly time frame on the dollar, I am anticipating for prices to take out previous week's low. So this weekly candle here is what I'm anticipating for prices to take out, right? I'm anticipating for prices to take out this line right here. I'm going to indicate that by this green line. So with the way that we close here on this weekly candle, I can anticipate for that next weekly candle here on Dixie to create the open, manipulate higher, and then take out previous week's low. Just because like taking a look at how we closed here on the weekly candle, it's really bearish. As you can see, the bare minimum for us to do is to take out that weekly low, right? And once we take out the weekly low here on the dollar, I don't necessarily have a bias, at least on the weekly time frame. So if we do complete the weekly objective, I would then go on to the daily time frame or intraday time frames for my higher time frame buys. But as of right now, coming into this week, I can anticipate previous week's low to be taken. And one thing that I do want to mention here too is previous week's low, this right here, is the same low as the daily low. So this is Friday's candle, and this is the weekly candle. So both of those lows on those two different time frames are the same low. They're the exact same low. That means this idea is called scoping, right? So that means I'm anticipating for the weekly objective to be completed within the next day. So coming into Monday's price action, I can anticipate for previous week's low / previous day low to be taken. And that whole idea, scoping, just allows you to understand when prices wants to complete its objective, right? And that's about all I have for the weekly time frame on the dollar. So here, based on how we close here on the weekly power of threes or weekly candle, I can anticipate for prices to take out previous week's low. Notice how the daily low is the same low as the weekly low. This suggests that we are most likely going to take out the weekly objective within one day. After we complete the weekly objective, I can no longer use the weekly time frame as my higher time frame objective. I would have to use the daily or the intraday time frames as well. One thing that I do want to mention here too is this Friday is the 31st, right? So this is the last trading week in this monthly candle. This monthly candle here, right? I'm anticipating that we have already created the monthly high for this monthly candle, right? So within this next week, I can anticipate for us to continue to possibly continue to expand lower, or we could actually just consolidate and just like stay within this TGIF range of this monthly candle. So what I mean by that is I could anticipate for us to, just kind of just consolidate around that 0.2 to 0.3 level and then close within that blue shaded line. Or I'll make this a box so you guys can see it a little bit more visible. Make it a little bit more visible there. So we could end up consolidating in that blue shaded box, right? Because of the TGIF setup. In TGIF setup, ICT teaches us to use TGIF on the basis of the weekly time frame. But if every single time frame is fractal, meaning every single time frame has an objective, every single candle has a open, high, low, close too. So if you can apply that same TGIF setup concept to the monthly candle, then you'll be able to widen your horizon, right? And like just the way that we're about to close here on the monthly time frame tells me that we're not going to take out this monthly high. at least it's not efficient to do it, right? And that we're most likely going to like either close within this blue shaded box or just continue to expand lower, and then possibly have the monthly closure coming into Thursday, Wednesday, or Friday's price action. But yeah, that is what I do have for the dollar. So I do want to see lower prices here coming into the dollar, and possibly to expand lower to match the monthly candles as well. Before I get into NQ in ES, I do want to go over what we do have coming into this week. So we have consumer confidence here on Tuesday. We have federal funds rate, FOMC statement, and FOMC press conference on Wednesday. So this is pretty. Interest rates are going to be released here, so this is pretty important. Mark your calendars for Wednesday. We have advanced GDP and unemployment claims here on Thursday, so that's pretty crucial as well. On Friday we have core PCE price index and employment cost index as well. So we have a pretty eventful week this week. But the most crucial thing here coming into this week is the FOMC on Wednesday. And let's get into NQ here. So NQ, before we opened up here on NQ on Sunday, right? I was anticipating. So based on this weekly candle here on NQ, it's suggesting to me that we're most likely going to take out previous week's high. So coming into this week, I was anticipating for previous week's high to be the draw of liquidity, at least on the weekly time frame. But however, what I do want to mention is that the daily time frame isn't exactly in confluence with the higher time frame draw yet on NQ. So notice how on the dollar, the daily time frame and the weekly time frame were aligned with each other, right? The daily was suggesting lower prices, and also the weekly was suggesting lower prices. However, on NQ, there's misalignment between the time frames here, right? So NQ, the daily time frame is that it's suggesting to me based on this daily time frame here. I'll make it a red line. So this red line is pointing towards the daily candle. So this daily candle is telling me that the next daily candle we're most likely going to take out the daily low. However, take a look at the weekly candle. This weekly candle here on NQ is suggesting to me that we're most likely going to take out the weekly high. So there's misalignment, right? The daily suggesting lower prices and the weekly suggesting higher prices. So in this case, if I were to try to frame a trade right now, I can't rely on the weekly time frame as my higher time frame objective, right? The only way I'm going to use it as the only times I can actually structure a trade where I'm going to use the weekly time frame as my higher time frame objective is when the daily candle is in alignment with the weekly time frame. But as of right now, coming into Monday, I was anticipating for us to take out Friday's low of day and not exactly the weekly high. So here, NQ, based on the weekly time frame or the weekly power of 3, I can anticipate for prices to take out weekly high. So he says, I told myself, take a look on the 2-day time frame. You can see how we have created a 2-day fair value gap. So let's take a look at the 2-day time frame. So we did create that daily time frame, right? Or that 2-day fair value gap, showcased by that blue box. And with the way that we opened up here on Sunday, we actually gapped down, which is kind of interesting. So we gapped down yesterday, and or not yesterday, but we gapped down coming into Sunday's opening price, right? And we're currently disrespecting this 2-day fair value gap. I was anticipating for this 2-day fair value gap to get rebalanced, but I was not anticipating for us to have this large of a gap down coming into on Sunday. So right now it's kind of interesting where we're at, because now I'm going to have to pivot here, right? So initially, like I said, the weekly high was my draw of liquidity. But if we end up taking out previous week's low here because of this gap down, then I might have to reconsider what the bias is, right? So if we take out previous week's low, I can no longer use this weekly time frame as my higher time frame objective, and I'm going to have to use intraday candles or daily candles as my higher time frame objective. So as of right now, like I said, if we do end up taking out previous week's low on NQ, I'm going to disregard the weekly time frame, and I'm just going to trade using the daily candle and the intraday candles. But yeah, we're also about to close here on the monthly time frame in about 6 days. So on Friday, that's the last trading day of the monthly candle. So this monthly candle's range here, to be honest, I'm not anticipating for us to take out the monthly high or the monthly low anymore. Like, I feel like these highs are pretty established. But yeah, like, I mean, anything could happen. But like, as of right now, I can't anticipate either high or this low to be taken. Somewhere in between, I feel like we're going to close somewhere either in this portion of the candle or in this portion. But that's all going to depend on how we close here coming into this week. And yeah, that's going to be all for NQ. If we can align the daily time frame with the weekly order flow, which is higher prices, then I'll consider taking a swing trade to target that weekly high. But if not, then I'm going to have to pivot and just kind of work around what's happening right now. So coming into ES, I'm anticipating the same idea here on ES as well. I want to see higher prices because the weekly candle, this weekly candle here is suggesting to me that we're most likely going to take out this weekly high. And with the way that we closed here, or with the way that we're so close to previous month's high, which is all-time highs, I can anticipate for us to take out the weekly high, right? And then expand towards the previous month's high, which is all-time highs. But like I said, with the way that we gap down on Sunday's opening, it kind of is, it's interesting because I might have to pivot here on ES as well. But yeah, the daily time frame, notice how the weekly time frame here is suggesting higher prices, but the daily time frame isn't necessarily suggesting higher prices yet, right? The way that we closed here on Friday suggested to me that we're most likely going to take out Friday's low of day. So coming into this week, I would have to wait until a daily candle is in alignment with the weekly order flow, which is higher prices. And yeah, that's going to be all for my weekly market outlook. I want to see higher prices here coming into the indices, but like I said, because of this gap down, something that I wasn't aware of, or I guess wasn't aware of, but wasn't anticipating, we might have to pivot, but who knows? We'll see coming into the first half of this week. So now I'm going to go from the weekly market outlook to some reviews over the trades that I took last week, or some of the trades that I did recognize. So I took 2 trades this week, and I did have 2 other trades that I saw on Friday that I didn't take, but I did notice that whenever I was reviewing at night, I did notice that some of these trades here were pretty clean. So the first trade here on Friday was actually based on the 2-day time frame, right? So this 2-day candle right here, notice how I can anticipate for that 2-day high to be taken, right? So with the next 2-day candle, I can anticipate for us to create a open low high close with the target being the 2-day high as the low-hanging fruit. That's the bare minimum I can target, right? For at least this 2-day time frame. So my higher time frame order flow for this specific trade is the 2-day candle or the 2-day order flow, which is suggesting higher prices. So for me to align myself with the 2-day time frame, I could use maybe the daily time frame or some sort of intraday time frames, right? So going from the 2-day time frame, I go to the daily time frame. And notice how this this is a daily candle, right? By the way. So this daily candle here is suggesting to me the same idea that we're most likely going to take out the daily high. So now the daily candle is in alignment with the 2-day order flow. So I'm going to now rely on the daily candle as my model, and the higher time frame objective or the higher time frame order flow is the 2-day time frame. So now that I know that my models here on now that I know that my models on the daily time frame, I can use the 4-hour, the hourly, the 6-hour, the 8-hour as my entry pattern. But one thing that is something that you do want to pay attention to is that the 4-hour high here. So this 4-hour candle, notice how its high is the same high as the daily high. So that means that we should complete the daily model's objective within the next 4 hours. So instead of basing my model here on the daily time frame, I'm going to use the 4-hour time frame as my model because of the idea called scope. Scope is just a concept that allows you to understand when prices is going to complete an objective, right? So in this case, like I said before, we should complete the daily objective within the next 4 hours. So going from the 4-hour model, I went onto the 1-hour time frame for an entry pattern, right? So now on the hourly time frame, we have this hourly fair value gap, and whenever we retrace back inside this hourly fair value gap, we should respect this hourly fair value gap to continue higher, right? So I take my entry here, and one thing that I do want to mention is that I'm anticipating the next daily candle to be at least a open, low, high close, right? So we can target the previous day high and 2-day high. So my entry pattern is actually below the next daily's opening price. And this whole concept kind of refers back to when ICT states you want to be a buyer below the midnight open and you want to be a seller above the midnight open, right? So this whole concept is just by essentially buying in discount and premium. If you're anticipating if you're anticipating a candle that looks like this one, right? This bullish up close 4-hour candle. If you're anticipating this formation of a candle, you want to be a buyer in the lower half of this wick, right? You want to be a buyer below the open. So he applied that concept to the daily time frame. But with the way that he says prices is fractal, you can apply my concepts to every single time frame instead. So I use that concept of the midnight opening price, and I applied that to the 4-hour, the 15-minute, the weekly, because all of those time frames are fractal. And yeah, that's just, and we do end up playing, this trade does end up playing out. It's just I didn't have a screenshot for it for some reason. But yeah, we do end up taking out the daily high. But after we take out the daily high, I do get stopped out at break even. So that's just something that I did want to mention too. But yeah, it's about 20 minutes or so now. So I'm just going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this video. And if you guys do want to have a, I guess, early release to the weekly market outlook, you guys can join my Discord where I posted about 12 p.m. on Sunday Central Time. And yeah, I do, daily Stoic quotes on there. We can have one-on-one sessions. It's more personal as I don't really release much on my YouTube community stuff. But yeah, join it if you guys want. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, be safe.